In this video, we dauntless or diving into the competitive landscape of Chevron by taking a look at its two major rivals, ExxonMobil and Shell. How do these companies stack up against each other? What strategies are they using to stay ahead of the competition? Before proceeding, don't forget to watch our internal analysis first by clicking on the link in the description box. ExxonMobil Corporation is a US-based oil and gas company formed in 1999 through a joint venture between Exxon Corporation and Mobil Corporation. The company is organized into three businesses: upstream, product solutions, and low-carbon solutions. On the other hand, Shell is an international energy and petrochemical company founded in 1907 and headquartered in The Hague. The company's business segments include integrated gas, upstream, downstream, and corporate. Now, what is the financial health of the two rivals relative to Chevron's? Let's delve into it more, starting with the horizontal analysis. From 2020 to 2024, Chevron's total assets have shown a steady increase each year, indicating continuous growth. In comparison, ExxonMobil expanded its asset base over the same period, with a jump between 2023 and 2024. Meanwhile, Shell's total assets peaked in 2022 before a slight decline the following years, though they have remained relatively stable overall. Looking at total liabilities, Chevron's debt level stayed relatively stable across the years, with only slight fluctuations. ExxonMobil maintained stable liabilities for most of the period, but saw an increase in 2024. Similarly, Shell's liabilities peaked alongside its assets in 2022 and have remained relatively stable since then. As for total equity, Chevron's equity has increased steadily. ExxonMobil also experienced strong equity growth over the 5 years. Shell's total equity, on the other hand, remained relatively stable throughout 2020 to 2024. As discussed in our internal analysis, based on a 4-year CAGR, Chevron is experiencing strong sales growth and improving asset efficiency, while net income and return on sales have declined. For ExxonMobil, their sales growth is caused by a surge in oil and gas prices, their strategic acquisitions that expanded its U.S. upstream presence and increased their production capacity, as well as their production expansion in key regions throughout the world. Their total assets also increased due to continued investment. It has a stable return on sales because their revenue growth was matched by rising operating costs, keeping margins relatively flat. Now, let us analyze each of the company's liquidity, solvency, efficiency, and cash flows using financial ratios. Focusing first on liquidity ratio. The slight dip in ExxonMobil's liquidity was due to higher capital expenditures, including the Pioneer Natural Resources acquisition, low-carbon solutions investment, share buybacks, and increased dividends. Shell's liquidity position also declined from 2023 to 2024, driven by a drop in working capital inflows and a reduction in trade payable. While cash and cash equivalents remained stable, the reduction in supplier-related liabilities slightly weakened the current ratio. Chevron's current ratio declined from 2022 to 2024 due to a decrease in current assets and an increase in current liabilities. The decline in operating cash flow is primarily due to lower earnings and higher payments related to asset retirement obligations, while current liabilities rose as the company had $5.4 billion of commercial paper outstanding by the end of 2024, while none of which are recorded in 2023 and 2022. For efficiency ratio, Chevron's asset turnover peaked in 2022 but decreased in 2024, mainly due to the decrease in sales and other operating revenues during those years. Exxon's asset turnover also had a sharp decline to an increase in PPE from major projects and low-carbon initiatives, while revenue remained constant. Shell's asset turnover also decreased in 2024 after peaking in 2021. This was due to declining revenues during the year, alongside a growing asset base driven by continued investment in long-term energy transition projects and upstream developments. Despite a modest decline in capital expenditure, the slow return on new assets contributed to reduced efficiency. Moving to solvency ratio, Chevron's solvency ratio exhibits a decreasing trend from 2020 to 2024, indicating that the company relied on equity financing rather than debt financing. The company's debt-to-equity ratio increased from 2023 to 2024, mainly driven by the increase in Chevron's total debt as the company issued commercial paper during the year. Meanwhile, the sharp drop in ExxonMobil's debt-to-equity ratio was due to higher equity from the Pioneer acquisition and an increase in retained earnings from net income. Shell's leverage declined from 2020 to 2024, mainly due to debt reduction, with total debt falling from 2023 to 2024. Shell repaid $9.6 million in net debt in 2024 and recorded no new bond or commercial paper issuances, supported by strong free cash flow and controlled capital expenditure. Chevron's debt-to-cash flow ratio decreased in 2024, yet still indicating that Chevron generates enough cash from operations to cover its debt. This decline can be attributed to the increase in the company's total debts during the year, as well as the decrease in net cash provided by operating activities, as Chevron's net income in 2024 decreased from 2022. Chevron's ratio declined in 2024 due to a decrease in sales and other operating revenues resulting from lower commodity prices, despite selling more crude oil, natural gas, and refined products. ExxonMobil's operating margin in 2024 also declined as higher operating expenses increased due to scheduled maintenance, inflation, and increased spending on upstream projects which offset structural cost savings. On the other hand, Shell's operating margin increased slightly from 2023 to 2024, but remained lower than the 17% in 2022. This is due to a decline in refining margins, which fell from 2022 to 2024, and a drop in total revenue. A reduction in operating expenses, including structural cost cuts, helped limit the impact on margins. Lastly, the three big oil companies exhibit the same trend in their ROEs from 2020 to 2024. These are primarily driven by the high oil and gas prices in 2022, paired with the high refined product volumes, which significantly increased the profitability of the companies in 2022. However, their ROEs in 2024 dropped because of the rollback of commodity prices during the year, which reduced their profitability and asset efficiency. Now, let's take a closer look at ExxonMobil and Shell's value chain analysis, starting with support activities. As for the procurement, ExxonMobil facilitates supplier collaboration through its supplier registration portal and uses third-party screening to assess compliance, focusing on areas like anti-corruption. They partner with groups like the National Minority Supplier Development Council to promote inclusivity and diversity. Meanwhile, Shell offers a supplier corner and local and indigenous supplier portal, upholds a strict supplier code of conduct, and uses its diverse supplier pipeline management system to support underrepresented suppliers, including women-owned businesses. For technology development, both ExxonMobil and Shell invest in AI, data analytics, and machine learning to optimize oil and gas operations. ExxonMobil leads with its world's only large-scale end-to-end carbon capture and storage system and $41.4 billion in investments. They collaborate with Microsoft, IBM, and Intel on quantum computing and use proprietary algorithms for seismic data analysis. ExxonMobil also focuses on methane emission reduction and biofuel feedstocks. On the other hand, Shell is developing a carbon capture and storage system across the North Sea, Americas, and Asia. They also invested $1.1 billion in R&D and collaborated with Leiden and VU researchers on quantum computing. They also operate a high-performance computing facility for seismic imaging. Shell is also advancing methane sleep reduction and generating biofuels. In terms of human resource management, ExxonMobil covers 85% of employees under the Culture of Health program. They have over 60% of its workforce based outside the U.S., representing over 160 nationalities, and have invested 70% of their resources in training. They also support diversity through groups like Pride and Win. Lastly, employee performance is closely managed, with low performers given options like improvement plans or severance packages. Meanwhile, Shell signed the Global Business Collaboration for Better Workplace Mental Health in 2023. They have 96,000 employees across 70-plus countries and delivered 264,000 training days in 2024. Shell promotes equal opportunity and tracks employee engagement through its Shell People Survey. For firm infrastructure, ExxonMobil uses the Operations Integrity Management Systems for safety, environmental protection, and risk management. In 2022, they combined chemical and downstream businesses to improve support and performance. Shell also follows a framework called HSSE and SP Control Framework to ensure safety and environmental protection. In 2023, they merged integrated gas and upstream businesses to improve efficiency. Moving forward to primary activities, as for inbound logistics, ExxonMobil and Shell deliver crude oil to their refineries through pipelines, trucks, railways, and tankers. ExxonMobil has a pipeline company that manages underground storage facilities for various energy products. Meanwhile, Shell transports crude oil to its refineries, like the Wesseling plant, using certified transport partners. This facility alone features 8 separate storage tanks for coordinated deliveries. For operations, ExxonMobil and Shell both engage in exploration, drilling, extraction of oil and gas, and petrochemical manufacturing. ExxonMobil operates 21 refineries with nearly 5 million barrels per day distillation capacity and produces about 3 million barrels of crude oil and liquids daily. Around 80% of its refining capacity is integrated with chemical or lube-based stocks. Its oil rigs are located in Guyana, Norway, Brazil, and Eastern Mediterranean. Shell, on the other hand, had a 1.65 million barrels per day of distillation capacity and a refinery intake of 1.34 million barrels. It achieved 92% refinery and chemical plant availability and operates oil rigs in the UK, Singapore, Russia, and more. For outbound logistics, ExxonMobil distributes fuel through a global network of over 21,000 retail stations. Its pipeline company transports around 2.8 million barrels daily of crude oil, petroleum, and other products through approximately 8,000 miles of pipelines across 10 U.S. states and the Gulf of Mexico. Shell operates over 40,000 petrol stations in more than 110 countries. Through Shell Pipeline Company LP, it transports roughly 1.5 billion barrels annually via 5,500 kilometers of owned pipelines. For marketing and sales, ExxonMobil and Shell maintain their presence through platforms like Facebook and YouTube. Moreover, ExxonMobil has an ExxonMobil Rewards Plus program for customer loyalty. It also sponsors events like Formula One and partners with the Racing Bulls team. Shell also offers the Shell Go Plus Rewards program and maintains a strong presence in motorsports, partnering with Scuderia Ferrari, Ducati MotoGP, BMW Motorsport, and among others. After sales service, ExxonMobil offers customer-focused support through the ExxonMobil Answer Person, providing rapid technical assistance for their products. Shell provides B2B digital tools like the Shell Card and Partner Card for better fleet management and supports customers through an online help and supports frequently asked questions section. How does Shell and ExxonMobil play the game? The table outlines and compares the core strategies employed by the three major oil companies. Chevron is positioned as a market challenger and focuses on strategies like sustainability and energy transition. ExxonMobil, the U.S. market leader, employs a sustainability and energy transition leadership strategy through its low-carbon solutions unit and a disciplined investment strategy to focus capital allocation intelligently and efficiently, investing in areas that provide long-term growth while maintaining financial resilience. Shell, the world market leader, also has sustainability and energy transition strategy and takes a different approach by focusing on value-based positioning and differentiated targeting across regions. Common strategies across all three firms include geographic segmentation, diversification, technological innovation, integrated business model, and operational excellence. Let's now move on to its VRIO framework. ExxonMobil's global upstream network spans more than 30 countries with 19.9 billion barrels of oil equivalent reserves and 4.3 BOE per day production in 2024. Backed by $25.6 billion in capital spending, it focuses on low-cost projects, valuable and hard to imitate but not rare, thus competitive parity. ExxonMobil's position in CCUS represents a sustained competitive advantage as it holds a significant number of patents related to carbon capture and storage technologies, with over 395 patents, while Shell has only 228 related patents. Downstream operations generated $339.24 billion in revenue in 2024, with 19,444 retail stores, large-scale but standard among industry peers, offering competitive parity. ExxonMobil's global supply chain covers 48 countries, 37 refineries, and 26,000 miles of pipeline, supported by 62,000 staff and $14.5 billion in logistics spending. It's efficient but not rare, yielding competitive parity. Lastly, ExxonMobil maintains a strong brand standing. However, it only yielded a temporary advantage when compared to other companies such as Shell, which has the highest brand value of any oil and gas company worldwide. Moving on to Shell's VRIO analysis, we first have the global upstream and integrated gas assets. Shell's exploration and development wells across 23 global sites are valuable, with a total proved reserves of 9.62 million barrels of oil equivalent in 2024. However, as other oil companies have their own global exploration sites, this resource gives Shell only a competitive parity. The next valuable resource of Shell is technological innovation, especially its GTL technology. This allows Shell to process natural gas into high-quality liquid fuels and products, usually made from oil. Although it is costly to imitate, it is not rare because there are few existing GTL plants, hence a competitive parity. Shell also possesses extensive downstream properties and plants that are valuable. allowing Shell to process and meet daily fuels and electric vehicle charging demands. However, these are not rare as they are built on a joint venture initiative with other oil companies and are not the only oil company that possesses EV charging stations. Thus, this resource provides a competitive parity. Shell's global supply chain network includes 8 refineries, 73,000 EV charging stations, and a 5,500-kilometer pipeline that carries 40 types of crude oil, making it a valuable resource for Shell's midstream and downstream operations. However, it is not rare, hence competitive parity. Lastly, Shell's strong brand reputation and global recognition give value to the company. It ranks 30th in global corporate rankings, reinforcing Shell's status as the most valuable oil and gas brand worldwide. These rankings are rare as few companies qualify the minimum cut-off measures. It is also costly to imitate because despite spending only 4.3% of sales on marketing in 2024, its 192-year history helped build its reputation and global presence. Lastly, it is well organized, making these resources a sustainable competitive advantage. ExxonMobil's strengths include its strong financial resilience, which reflects its market leadership, and its integrated business model that helps it stay stable in a volatile industry. It operates an efficient global supply chain and has a massive production capacity, making it a powerhouse in the energy sector. ExxonMobil is also a leader in carbon capture technology, showing its commitment to low-emission solutions. ExxonMobil's weakness is that it falls behind in emerging areas like EV infrastructure and gas-to-liquid technology, limiting its position in the shift toward cleaner energy. Shell's strengths include its strong financial standing, with solid performance in liquidity, debt management, and cash generation. It has a vast global presence, operating in over 70 countries with more than 40,000 petrol stations, supported by an extensive logistics network. Shell also benefits from a strong global brand and well-targeted marketing across segments like mobility, lubricants, and decarbonization. Its integrated business model allows its cost savings and efficient use of resources, further strengthening its competitive position. Shell's weaknesses include a lower refinery capacity compared to ExxonMobil, with only 1.65 million barrels per day versus ExxonMobil's 5 million, which may limit its output and efficiency. Additionally, recent weakening of its climate target has raised concerns about its commitment to net zero goals, potentially affecting its reputation and progress in sustainability. Now, let's analyze the competitive landscape of the oil and gas industry through the lens of Porter's 5 forces. The competitive rivalry in the oil and gas industry is high because there are several players, with roughly equal market shares in the industry that strengthens the competitive rivalry. Also, the industry's overall growth increased at a CAGR of 6% at the end of 2024. This steady growth strengthens the competitiveness among rivals. Lastly, the companies find it difficult to exit the oil and gas industry, further strengthening the industry's competitive landscape. Vertical integration of oil and gas firms across international markets weakens the bargaining power of suppliers. This integration strengthens their influence over receiving countries while mitigating risk and maximizing profitability at various stages of supply chain. By maintaining control over multiple processes, oil companies can stabilize operations and protect themselves against market fluctuations. Thus, the bargaining power of suppliers for this industry is weak. B2B buyers like refineries and distributors have low bargaining power due to supplier control, high switching cost, and vertical integration. In contrast, B2C buyers or end users enjoy higher bargaining power given the undifferentiated nature of fuel products and ease of switching between brands. Overall, the buyers in the oil and gas industry have weak bargaining power. Substitutes like electric vehicles and biofuels are growing with projections showing they will offset 7% of oil demand in transportation by 2028, indicating that they are increasingly adopted. While their current market share remains relatively small compared to the global dependence on oil, their expansion signals a shift in energy consumption patterns. As technology improves, charging infrastructure expands and regulatory support for green energy increases. These substitutes are poised to challenge the oil and gas industry's dominance. Therefore, the threat is currently moderate but projected to become high threat in coming years. There are significant barriers that discourage new competitors from entering. One major obstacle is the high capital investment needed for exploration, drilling, refining, and distribution. The industry's processes are highly complex, capital-intensive, and require cutting-edge technology. Also, strict environmental regulations demand costly decarbonization efforts, and large firms dominate through cost efficiencies, vast production capacities, global supply chains, and advanced technology. Overall, these factors keep the threats of new entrants weak, allowing major players to maintain their market dominance. Hence, the oil and gas industry remains attractive to its established players due to high profitability and well-established market presence. However, its attractiveness to new players is declining, largely due to intense rivalry, the growing adoption of substitutes, and complex environmental regulation as well as stakeholders' pressure for sustainability. Let's revisit the PESTLE analysis to refresh our understanding of the oil and gas industry. You may pause the video to read the statement. This strategic group map visualizes the competitive positions of the oil and gas companies based on two key dimensions: brand strength and geographic scope. The map shows that Shell stands out for its strong brand but operates in fewer countries than ExxonMobil, which has the widest global reach. Chevron is also globally present but has a weaker brand strength. TotalEnergies holds a middle position in both brand strength and reach, while ConocoPhillips lags behind with low brand strength and limited international presence. To conclude, Dauntless identifies the following as the future key success factors for oil and gas industry. It is essential to continue building on their proven strengths. Companies should continue their strong focus on sustainability in operations through the following. More research and development should be invested, particularly in low-carbon solutions to reduce emissions and mitigate climate impact. Continuous improvement in the digital technologies used in operations such as IoT, AI, and cloud computing for efficiency and lower operational costs. Strategically diversifying into renewable energy resources. Continuous talent development and upskilling workforce to prepare employees to manage new technologies and business models. Build strategic partnerships. Maintain transparent communication with shareholders. By integrating these elements, companies can future-proof their operations, meet evolving regulatory and social expectations, and contribute meaningfully to the global energy transition.